Hey, so welcome to Levels I Hate Part 1. This is level 10, which, if I had to redo this whole mod, like if someone pointed a gun to my head and forced me to, I probably wouldn't, but if they did, I would redo map 1 and 2 and 10 and 11, which are two of the next three that you're just going to see here. This is like some kind of prison map or something. It's pretty linear. I just think the layout is pretty boring. Like the beginning area, there's prisons on both sides from where you enter. It's sort of symmetrical, and there's a space where the brown guards wander through, like a fairly large space. So you don't know exactly where you're going to catch them, although it's at the beginning of the level. So if you enter, they're pretty much going to be in the same place. Oh, by the way, from now on I'm going to try to start out playthroughs with a pistol instead of having full ammo and health. There are a lot of secrets anyway that, can get me back up pretty quickly, but I still think it's nice to have that, like, tension there. This is where the key is. Yep. So through those doors are a very large number of SS guards, which I always have a lot of trouble with. It's really kind of a tedious... It's the first time I've actually successfully stabbed somebody in this video. It's kind of tedious to do it, to kill these guys. There are these columns. This area is shaped sort of like a weird, it's very long and thin, and it connects right to the other room, which is really just like an arch shape. And it was a lot more simple. Excuse me, I just ate popcorn. And it was a lot simpler before, but then I added a bunch of walls there to break it up because I thought it was boring, which totally made this situation more complicated, because when you open the door to try to get the SS guards, you don't know where people are going to be. So they just sort of pop out from behind these walls, as you'll see. Which makes it kind of cool, definitely the most interesting part of the level. Here I'm trying to find an effective way to deal with these guys, but I have to do it several times. This is, I don't know, this is one of those levels where I think I didn't, maybe I did think about it before doing it, but like, I kind of stuck with it. The idea of like redoing it didn't occur to me because there were enough like little interesting bits to where I didn't want to change it. But I don't know, like you never know the effect that that's gonna have on another person, so even if you don't necessarily like it or it's not exciting, that doesn't mean that it might not be an interesting experience. And that's, I don't know, that's something that I struggle with. It's hard to be objective about your own things, and you can really hate something that you've made, but it might actually be pretty good. It's just like it pushes some button, or you're just not excited by the fact that it isn't doing crazy cool things every 2 seconds. But I don't know, I think the terms that I evaluate stuff by now are more like, is there a sort of a consistent theme, and how well does it match that? So like level 9 would be a pretty successful level, and 8, but there's certainly a theme for this one, but it's really just kind of pieces. It's a small level essentially where you're required to go, and there's nothing aside from this part right here that particularly excites me or interests me. There's a secret exit But I don't know, I almost think I felt like I had to do these sorts of things out of obligation or something. Like, I need to do this certain kind of map, so let's do that. Because I wanted to do every kind of map. Handling all these guys finally. At least I think so. Yeah, I think I got him. That seemed a lot longer when I was playing it. My god, this pop filter. So through here, there's that key door, which goes to where totally forgot those guys were there. That's pretty sadistic, I have to say. I don't hate it though. I don't hate like being unfair sometimes. I know a lot of game designers have spoke out about, things that are unfair, because that's what they used to do in older games, and I think there's actually something interesting about being unfair. It might not be like a pleasurable experience to the player, but having a pleasurable experience all the time isn't necessarily a good thing either. I mean, not that I'm trying to communicate any deep things with these levels that I made when I was 14 or anything, but I think I had this idea that, just being fair and giving someone, making someone have fun, that doesn't mean that, like, they might enjoy it while they're doing it, but it won't be on their mind, they won't be thinking about it in the same way that, like, some of the Wolfenstein levels that don't make any sense, that I still think about because they're just strange. And yeah, I was followed. I don't know where these guys came from. I think I had some floor code thing going on. Yeah, I die here, pretty sure. Would have liked to try to survive at 10%, but it was not to be. Yeah, I think there's a... because, like, it isn't necessarily in your interest to keep somebody playing a game anyway. Like, just, you don't necessarily have to lead someone to the end, like, all the time. That isn't necessarily a requirement, because, like, there is such a thing as saying, like, through the design, like, if you want to deal with this, then go ahead and continue. If you don't, then, you don't have to play it anymore. And, of course, like, video games have been a commercial medium, so people traditionally people haven't done that sort of design because they want people to keep playing. But when you're making something like this, it's like, I can do whatever I feel like, I can make 80 boss dudes in the same room, which is what a lot of people did in the beginning. And there's something, even though it's a really obvious thing that everybody does as their first, like, project, is something kind of cool about it. Making everything super hard. I don't know. I'm not gonna, like, rule it out or say it's wrong or anything. Everybody has their own, if it excites you when you're making something, then that's great, and I'm not gonna be there to say that someone shouldn't enjoy themselves doing it. And you could make a really great, amazing level with, like, 80 boss dudes in it anyway, so I really feel like there's no rules. And even though I broke a lot of rules, I still followed a lot of ones of, like, designing traditional Wolfenstein levels in this one. And I think it's, like, at the time, that was vastly important to me, because I didn't want to do anything that I wasn't supposed to do. Oh, there's the red key, which is the first time you see that. Yeah, this is where its DOSBox started getting choppy. You don't see the red key again until floor 18, so I sort of broke sequence here again. But this whole level is kind of reminiscent of episode 1 in some ways, in some of the rooms, or episode 3. The music is in episode 3 and episode 6, so yeah. Like I said in the last playthrough, I really assigned music based on how I felt about the levels. But yeah, I don't know. For me, there are really no rules, and I couldn't. When I did sort of follow the rules, which was most of the time, even though I broke them a lot, like that is the most boring part of this mod for me, certainly. Like looking back, and that's the kind of thing where people in like the Wolfenstein community, and it's not just the Wolfenstein community, but like, if something was more sort of realistic feeling, they'd like it, and if it wasn't, then they wouldn't like it, because it's supposed to be like a realistic German castle game or something. But see, the thing is, there's treasure and goofy cartoony things everywhere, but I think people just wanted to ignore that aspect of the game and sort of cognitive dissonance, pretend it didn't exist because they wanted to buy into the fiction, and like buying into the fiction means not questioning or observing how ridiculous the game is, because it makes you if it scares you, then you can't admit that it's kind of cartoony and goofy and like weird and grotesque also, even though it is, so that's something I want to definitely embrace with this and video games in general. And I don't think people should strive for realism necessarily. I think video games do that a lot worse than other media. And I don't know, for me it's always making those crazy complex labyrinths, that is the most interesting part, and not trying to do something that kind of feels real necessarily. Of course, like stuff that feels real has its place, and you can still do something really good there, but like I feel like there's a view that's more legitimate, and I think that's ridiculous. That secret is, you think it's the Hitler guy, get there, but it's just that wall. It's kind of a neat little secret. There's just a bunch of treasure and stuff in it. It's one of these out-of-the-way rooms that actually contains a decent, pretty cool secret. I don't know why I put the machine gun in there, though, because, you pick up the machine gun almost immediately, if you didn't have it already. Yeah. I don't know. I was on one subject, and this hallway is kind of a reference. That part was a reference to episode 1, level 3, by the way, which is not one of the better Wolfenstein levels, but maybe a little memorable. As a lot of the game was. Maybe the most memorable to a lot of people who played it, early on in episode 1. So I'm gonna head down to the exit area here, which I feel is pretty weak. And the secret exit is through here. It requires that key that I got in the secret. Oh my god, I cannot believe that I died. Yeah, I got on that subject of not following realism, and I think I reached the end point. That's why I'm not continuing with it. But if If I can think of more things to say, then I will. This level just doesn't particularly excite me. Those blocks do make navigation a lot harder than it would be if they were removed. It would look like 10 times less complicated, even though it's a really simple room. So I guess it's a really easy way to make something seem much more confusing than it actually is. Because you don't really know from the map. You can't really tell exactly how it's going to feel when you're in 3D or, pseudo 3D. Raycaster land. The real exit is through that way, and I'm gonna go that way just to pick up some ammo and stuff. Not that it matters, because I'm gonna go back to 8 ammo in the next level. This secret level is probably the strangest level in the whole thing, and it's very sort of incomplete and half-assed, and I hated it at the time, but it's sort of a joke level. It's pretty cool, and it's weird to me that after the first two, my secret levels got less and less interesting. Like, the third secret, there are 5 secret levels, and the third one is pretty cool. But it's a fairly conventional level. And then the 4th and 5th are just like directly reference levels in the original Wolfenstein, and are just kind of boring to me now. But at the time, I thought that the nostalgia thing was the coolest thing. So anyway, you're about to see the weirdness, so stay tuned.